Welcome and good day, everyone. We're of course glad you guys can join us today. My name's Ian. Got Carolyn with me again, and I'm back from last week. A little bit of a vacation there. Spent some time with my parents, which was a lot of fun. But now we're back. Got the whole new thing going on here. Looks like a lot of fun. So, yeah, let's kind of dive in here. We're continuing in our book of Ruth.
Yes.
Been again an excellent book. But before we dive too far into this week's message, how has your week been, Carolyn? How things been going for you?
Well, it's the start of school here, and so for my business, it's a little bit slower, just because parents need to get their kids into school and that new routine, which is, as you know, it's hard doing that gear shift, not only for kids, but parents. But yeah, looking forward to starting my fall this week and getting a little bit busier and continuing to support kids with special needs. So it's good.
Yeah, there's always that little bit of lull when school starts, as people are trying to figure out their routines again, but once they get that settled, it kind of swings back into the more normal scheduled things in life, right?
Yeah.
Little guy starts school again, grade 3 already, which is crazy.
We're not aging slow anymore. It's happening fast. No, it seems like
it's picking up quicker. Yeah, it's been good. He's fortunately been enjoying the first week of school. Really had a good time. Brand new teacher to the school, so kind of new for everybody, which I think is kind of helpful. But yeah, he's enjoying it. He's got 3 of his buddies in the class, which again helps because again there's multiple grade 3 classes, so him having some recognized faces does help. But it's funny because he's got the other Emmett spelt the same way in his class. He's got two girls. One's Claire, the other's Clara, and then he's got these other 2 girls with the exact same name as well. So the teacher hopefully figured out each of these. I
jokingly said it's like an Abbott and Costello classroom. Who's on first? Who's on second?
Yeah, it just about is. So, but yeah, no, he's had a lot of fun. He's been enjoying school, getting back into that routine. My wife says the house is quiet now because she's working at home, so everything's very quiet. So she's just getting used to the quietness now of getting, again, back into that routine of back into school. So I don't know for you guys what that looks like. Maybe you guys are in the same boat. Kids are restarting school. Again, getting that whole routine back of, making lunches, getting them up, getting them off to school, that whole routine. Or maybe it was something completely different. Maybe you got to enjoy something like me, a little bit of vacation just before things got into, that full swing of school season. But whatever that is, please let us know in the chat. We would love to hear from you guys. Continuing in, our book of Ruth, and today's title is Choosing Your Next Chapter, which I thought was very interesting, a little bit almost mysterious because I wasn't sure what the message was leading into, but certainly does, of course, make a lot of sense. Our scripture today comes from Ruth 4, verse 1. So Boaz went to the town gate and took a seat there. Just then, the family redeemer he had mentioned came by. So Boaz called to him, "Come over here and sit down, friend. I want to talk to you." Now, this is the context of, from the previous week, about there's a closer kinsman redeemer to the family than him, that he would have to kind of give that up for Boaz to take care of Naomi and Ruth. And so he has just so happened to have found this person at the town gate where all business is done, I guess, and wants to talk to him about being that redeemer. So our first question here, where did you see God moving in your life this week?
Yeah, there are so many examples. I'm being reminded that God is faithful. That's my word for the year. And just reminded that it's not for me to make things happen, that actually God is behind the scenes making things happen. And my job is to do the best I can with what he does with circumstances in life. And so for me, it's been really working on my attitude of, last week was that Jesus washed Judas's feet. And in turn, I am called to love people who may do things to hurt me. And so just looking at all of those things in a way that God is moving and God is challenging me to love at a deeper level. And I realize how much that is different. And so just doing things for people this week that is hard. Serving people in a way that isn't always easy for me to serve. Has been really good because I realize that's Jesus's heart for not only me, but everybody else.
Yeah. Oh man. Where did you see God moving this week? I think it was a little quieter for me this week, maybe a little more subtle in that sense that this idea of getting physically more healthy, and this idea that I need to kind of sit and, take a bit of a, I don't know how to say it, but just kind of an overview, I guess, of where I'm at. And seeming I pinched a nerve in my back. I guess that was another piece that happened this past week. That was very discomforting. I was forced to stop Taekwondo probably for the next couple weeks until things can really get back to kind of healed. And then it was like, okay, so I'm in that routine of the physical health, being physically active, but where's the other side of that physical health of what I'm putting in me? So the foods, things, the times that I'm eating, the portions that I'm eating, what does that look like? It kind of got me thinking, what else do I need to do here? Now that I can't be physically active, how do I start to be more nutritionally healthy? So I think for me, that's kind of where I see things moving a little bit, taking a little bit more of an overlook of all the physical health. And what does that look like? Again, working on my elbow, again, having tennis elbow problems, pinched back, things have just kind of...
Welcome to 40. As we talk about, you're on that decline towards
I am.
Right?
And it's just...
You're approaching that 40 part. And
Exactly. All these things are starting to arise now that, of course, my dad was telling me when I was younger that at some point you're going to start feeling the physical things are going to start coming up more. And again, working full time for almost 20 years now.
As a mechanic, where you're contorting,
You're moving, you're being physically straining things.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel that stuff catching up now. So I'm having to take more steps into being proactive about looking after myself. I'm not a guy that enjoys going to the doctor, even though our lives in the past 8 years have involved being around doctors all the time. It's helped me realize that there's people out there that can help me physically when I'm having issues again with my back, with my arm, with things like that can help me in those times, in those areas where me just being physically active isn't enough to keep my body physically strong. So yeah, it's been a bit of a reminder that I just need to be conscious about that in those areas where I could be doing a little better than I am now. That's
a challenge for a foodie.
It
Michaela
is.
and I were talking about that yesterday. My daughter-in-law we've made, as you know, radical differences in our diets, and I still grieve it. Today I had a little bit of freak out about pickles because I really want pickles, and it's really hard to find ones that don't have a ton of sugar in them.
Yeah.
So when you crave those foods, there's moments where it's like, I just want that taste in my mouth.
It's hard. It's hard. Yeah. Especially when you love food. I love food, love the flavors, love building flavor complex in food, and then being able to enjoy it once it's cooked and prepared. So just trying to think of what can I do, even just a small step to make a bit of a change, and what that looks like, and how to be more body physically healthy over just like physically active healthy. So okay. Next question: was there a part of the message that was really impactful for you? Something that kind of stood out?
I think for me was the reminder that the idea of short prayers throughout the day. In the season of seeing God being faithful, I realized that a lot of that is actually having that conversation with Him, right? You don't know how much things are happening or changing if you're actually not thinking about it, right? So God can be doing so much, but it's because I'm distracted with other things. And so just that reminder of these short little prayers that I can be having with God every day, and how that is so important. And praying, this idea that I need to love people who may have not been as kind to me as I would expect, kind of like washing Judas' betrayal, and Jesus being willing to wash his feet even though he knew the sacrifice of the cross. Nothing anyone has done has been that dramatic to me that I could even say, but this is so hard, Lord, right? And so I think for me, it's just that reminder, that prayer, taking those short moments to just pray for people, my kids, my nieces and nephews. I was able to celebrate with my niece who's expecting her first baby. And she too has a disability. She lost hearing at a very young age. And being reminded of God's faithfulness to our family through lots of hard moments. And just, it was built around prayer.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
It was, and Emmett, today praying with him,
Yep.
it was built around prayer as we continue to pray for that bladder to grow. And I know God is able to do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine. And I want to be a part of that miracle, or even that design of the timing if it doesn't grow, what God has in store for him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh, I think for me, it was the just so happened moments. The just so happened, those coincidental things, which turns out to be the providence of God and how he's working in our kind of situations, and that we maybe find, maybe not that exciting or maybe not that big of a deal, but can be working in all those moments to really change the direction that we're on. Yeah. Even though along that way we're going to screw up points, we're going to make a bad decision, or there's going to be a bad choice, and but yet God's can work through those and that little course correction here, and then we get a little off and then back again, right? And it's all those little movements as he's working through that, and just Craig talking about as he started at tennis in high school, and the scout coach from the university came at the wrong time, saw him in the semifinals, not the finals, gave him a part scholarship, not a full scholarship, and then the finals, he got destroyed. But if that timing had been any different, he may not have had a scholarship at all. And with that part scholarship, that got him on his journey all the way to Amy, and from Amy to seminary to, right? And just seeing that and got me thinking again, like, what does that, where does that look like? What was some of those moments where things changed that, again, I can look back now to and look in the reverse order from, okay, there to now. What was the direction? What was the course changes that, stood out in those moments? And yeah, certainly much different than what I expected, but where God started me at to where I am now.
Huge difference.
Huge difference. And, had to close some relationships, had to start new ones, had to, all those things that we get on those different paths. But without those, I wouldn't be where I am. So you start looking at why things maybe ended. And I don't know, I guess you almost, this reminiscing idea that you look back on the past moments to see where you are, to realize God's still at work in me now. And then to be aware of some of those changes, again, to celebrate and praise those. Because again, we like to tell stories, and if we don't tell the stories, we forget those major points in life or those milestone moments.
Yeah, and that we think we need to make it happen, and you realize, no, God is at work. You just need to be listening, right? It's almost like we're on this road trip, and God has this grand adventure. And for us, it's checking the map and saying, God, okay, where to next? But just being open to that, because, yeah, I think about the same thing. If I hadn't gone to camp, if I hadn't met Dave, if we hadn't moved to Elmira, all of these things are so different.
Yeah, if that pivotal moment of not going to camp and meeting Dave, like that decision, oh no, I'll go next year.
Yeah.
Completely different story, right? So yeah, it's neat, and being able to tell those stories and bring them back up, because we need to remember those moments and being able to remember that God was in those moments and working through those moments in us, because it's so easy for us to forget them. It's so easy, and yeah, just being able to go back and look at where God was, I thought, yeah, it's super strong point for me for sure today. All right, if you had if you had to name the current chapter of your life that you're in right now, what would it be named? And what would you name the next chapter that you'd be planning for? That's a pretty big question.
Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit, because we had an hour and a half drive yesterday to get to my niece's baby shower, and I had a great time to just hang out with my daughter-in-law Michaela and chat with her. So I think this chapter right now is out of ashes.
Interesting. Okay.
Everything I thought was going to be is very different. and just starting a business in your 50s and leaving colleagues that I loved and enjoyed working with, having to pivot as a church family, coming out of COVID. There's just been so many moments that have just seemed crushing.
Yes. Yep.
And yet God is working them through.
Yep.
And I think the next chapter is out of ashes is this chapter, beauty will rise.
Okay.
And God is just saying that, Carolyn, just like before, you've been through these moments before, but there are good things happening. And I'm thankful for, I had the honor to pray for my niece and her husband, who have just gotten a puppy and are about to have a baby. So, young people have a lot of energy.
Yeah.
But reminded of all the things we've gone through as a family.
Yep.
Cancer, loss, stroke, botched surgeries, hearing loss. And as a family, we're really strong, and they're all strong in their faith, and we're all growing, and we're all working through. Life is hard. And yet being able to be a part of a family that God is still the center of, we still find laughter.
Yep.
We still are encouraging each other. And I sometimes think, life should be easier, Lord. And then I think, why? That's not the life we're called to. And the example of my father, who was very dedicated to living out his life of faith in a way that God had gifted him, which was acts of service. And he did not stop.
Yep.
We talked about this the other night, that my dad was serving cooking meals up until, he passed away.
Yeah.
And he was almost 89 years old, and he was still doing that stuff. He didn't stop. It changed, the intensity changed, but he still was willing to do things. Like you talked about him, showing up with pizza. He couldn't help you guys move, but he's going to provide the meal and say, no, this is on me.
Yep.
I love that example, and I'm very thankful for that. And that sometimes I let circumstances dictate my feelings, and I need to stop that.
Yeah, circumstances, they can get you.
They can get you.
They can get you, and especially if your emotions, don't stay in check, or you let them run. It can certainly adjust moods, perspectives, things like that, right? Yeah. We all get there, because emotions can really take over, and then we let them control the kind of thoughts and directions that we're planning to take.
As a true feeler, I need to have those checked out. So just a reminder that God's at work.
Yeah. Oh man. I have probably enough chapters to make a book.
And you are.
Pretty much a book. I think this one for me at the moment is be patient.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think that's where we're at right at the moment. Certainly on the medical side, things have been very, very just stable. There hasn't been mass adjustments to things. There hasn't been any crazy hospitalizations. Emmett's blood work, things of all that have all been very stable. And so we're just kind of being patient with the medical stuff and with work stuff for both me and Leanne. It's just we're just kind of waiting. We keep, discussing about what could be a different direction. Is there other opportunities? Is there other things that we could be doing? And there's things that pop up that, maybe for me, I think, I should do that. And then it's this whole idea of I'm taking charge and making something happen.
Yeah.
Over being patient, right? And so I think for me, it's just being patient and being aware of, again, God at work. I may not see him at work, but there's work being done, I guess. And that's kind of the perspective I need to hold on to, because then feelings for me can take over, and it's like, this is just bad. I need to do something. I'm not feeling good. Let's make a difference. Like make a change, right? And I have to be very aware of just hold on. The next chapter I'd be planning for, I think, is going to be like leap of faith. I think that's going to kind of be the next piece of the book. And again, holding on to the faith with God that he's going to provide and come out with the direction and the differences and the changes that maybe need to be made for, the medical stuff, for us as a family, financially, for jobs, whatever that is, that I think it's going to be having to take a bit of a leap of faith. It's going to have to take something to step out and past the comfort, to step into something that God's got set up for us and is at this point working on setting up, right? To get to that next point of, okay, it's time to now move. This is the direction, right? Certainly haven't got to this is the direction yet, but we're in that, I really believe we're in that movement of a different direction. But it's not going to be, here it is, everything's set up, you're good to go, right? Like, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to take a bit of faith on both me, my wife, the family, on moving into that direction. So I think for sure that's going to kind of be the direction for the next chapter.
Yeah, sure. Because nothing great happens without risk. Right?
Exactly.
You can't, we couldn't have started the church, we couldn't have started the business, like they're, right? But God is so gracious in giving you those next steps. I was thinking of Sarah and Abraham and waiting, right?
Yes.
Sometimes that waiting can seem really, really long, but it's worth waiting for that promise.
Exactly. And exactly, that's exactly it. And so, it's just, waiting now, being patient, and leap of faith, I think, is the next one. So we'll see where that all heads. We'll keep you guys posted. See where this direction goes. But very excited for what's to come, and kind of just waiting. So, all right, guys, we are coming to the end here. I want to leave you guys with a really good question this week. So, think about what your life looked like, what would look like from a year from now, and what plans do you need in place to make that happen. So again, that idea of what do you want it to look like? What decisions need to be made? What choices? Maybe some sacrifice, maybe giving some stuff up, maybe stopping a relationship that's just not healthy and you want to be relationally healthier. Whatever that might be, think about that. What could those plans be? What could be that next step, or getting some of those small baby steps in place to start moving in that direction? And again, talk about that with somebody that you trust, somebody that you know you can talk to, that's going to give you good advice, that's going to be wise with what you're talking about. Maybe that's a life group. They, for us, I know, have always been extremely supportive on those decisions, things that we want to make changes on. So I encourage you to do that if you are in a life group. If not, you, two friends, can start one and dive again into these questions a lot deeper, and get a really good discussion out of them, and really kind of support and encourage each other along those journey. But with that, guys, of course, we want to thank you guys for joining us again for another Talk It Over. We want to thank the tech team behind us, of course, making this all possible and available for you guys to be a part of each and every week. And we know whoever finds God finds life.